Good Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap. It's Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it's scary.
Oh my God.
I don't even think I want to do this podcast today.
All right.
The chair might break.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye. Good Friday morning, everybody. It is Friday the 13th. There are only 12 more shopping days until Christmas, in case I haven't been annoying enough already in this podcast. And, of course, I am joined today by future proud South Carolina resident and Texas trader, Jacob Valdez. Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning. Good morning. That was a good one.
So before we get into any of the icky, ooey gooey stuff, let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Yeah, I changed the song.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, that's your gift.
That was rocking.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I had my
right?
eardrums out and everything.
I know. I started headbanging a little bit, lost my headphones. It was a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on in Jacob's world today?
Well, today I want to talk about happiness and then these 10 tips that my wife and I kind of created. We wanted to share it with the podcast. So I was like, I think it'd be a great thing to share with our listeners.
All right. So happiness. We're going to talk about being happy. Now, of course, we made a mistake. I think it was on the last podcast where we talked about the good stuff first, and then we got all negative and started talking about all the UN and Greta Thunberg and all that garbage. We're going to do the opposite this time. We're going to let you know what's going on in the world, and then we're going to hit you with the good stuff. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So apologize for that. Sorry. You'll have to forgive us and kind of get over it, but that's just the way that things are going to work out. So no further ado, unless you got any ado to talk about. Actually, you know what? Here, let's talk about this real quick. Jacob's chair gave out on him earlier.
Yeah. It's Friday the 13th. I think it's what's happening.
So yeah,
like Final Destination thing.
Yeah, there's some funny things going on in your house. The stools, which, and I'll give you credit to that one. The stool that when I was there at your house, the stool that I was sitting in, I didn't have a whole real good warm and fuzzy that thing was going to hang in there much longer. And that's what happens when you shop at Big Lots for furniture, my friend. Mm-hmm. But the stool gave out. What was that? Yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Not on me, but yeah.
Yeah, well, not on me. Okay, we could tell whole stories however you want to tell it. So the stool did give out, and then the big omen came just minutes before I hit the recording button, and Jacob was sitting there, and he just went.
Yep,
and
lost hydraulics in the chair.
So wait a minute, what happened? Let me fix my chair now. For those of you listening who actually didn't get to see that, I engaged the hydraulic on my. Yeah, sorry. You got to watch some of this stuff if you want the full comedic effect. But that's whatever.
It's a Dodge chair. I can see.
Oh, no. I paid good money for my chair. I would never. In fact, funny story, when you just talked about the Dodge, the whole Jeep thing. I pick on people who drive Jeeps and Dodges and Chryslers and all that crap. I pick on people like that a lot, right? Our friend Bill, Bill Tenike, he I took him to the airport yesterday. He's doing some holiday flying because apparently, he just doesn't know how to be happy, which I hope he listens to this podcast because flying never makes you happy during the holidays. Anyway, I dropped him off at the airport yesterday, and he's got this big bag, this big suitcase, and the label on the suitcase says Jeep. Pull it out, and I'm like, you have a Jeep suitcase? He goes, yep. You know me, I love my Jeep. You don't drive a Jeep anymore, Bill. Don't remind me about that. So he was in a car accident a while back. It was a hit and run, and somebody just ran right into him head on. The Jeep back in the day, those older Jeeps, they could take a punishment. They could take some damage. And so that one actually it took a beating. But then from that point forward, I've always given Bill a bunch of crap about, being a Jeep fan and driving. Well, I've had real good luck with Dodge and blah, blah, blah. So I pulled his Jeep bag out of my trunk and I set it on the side right next to where the car is. And he goes, hey, Jeremy, you know how I know that bag's a Jeep bag? I said, no, I don't. Because it's sitting on the side of the road and it's not moving. You You took the joke right away from me.
I thought it was because it was rolling away in traffic or something.
Oh, no, it didn't move. Just like a Jeep, it didn't move. So let's get all the nasty stuff out of the way. Virginia, I guess they've forgotten their roots. And so I'm going to go through these stories real quick. All the links are going to be in the description. You can read them at your leisure. You're welcome, Mike. So there's a lot that's been going on. It's kind of a mess right now, and a lot of the people that are in charge there in Virginia, i.e. politicians, i.e. Democrats, they're pushing for a new assault weapons ban in the state of Virginia. So for some context here, source AmericanMilitaryNews.com, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam is backing a proposed ban on assault weapons that would prohibit the sale of many semi-automatic firearms designed like the AR-15, which, that's a blanket statement right there in and of itself. But it would grandfather existing owners of the weapons so long as they are registered or else face surrender. The governor's proposed ban is one of several gun control ideas being considered by the newly Democrat-controlled Virginia state legislature. So you voted for this crap, Virginia. Your fault. According to Virginia Mercury, many Democratic Party leaders are still deciding on a clear position as to how they are going to deal with the classes of firearms and accessories that they intend to ban, but that they already owned in the state. So all these different whatever weapon you've got, whatever accessories you got, let's say like bump stocks, for example, back when bump stocks were legal. Oh, well, I've got a bump stock. Well, we're Virginia, so now we're banning that crap, right? Just going to have to deal. Like, you want to live in Virginia, that's part of the deal. That's part of the package deal. Okay. Northam proposed Northam's proposal differentiates from another controversial gun control proposed by Senator Richard Saslaw, which would not create a carve out, that's a quote there from carve out, for existing owners who currently possess a firearm or firearms components that may eventually be banned under Virginia state law. In this case, the governor's assault weapons ban will include a grandfather clause for individuals who already own assault weapons, but the requirements that they register their weapons before the end of the designated grace period. That was cited from Elena Yarmosky, a spokeswoman for Northam, and she said that on Monday. Yarmosky says the details about this proposal and other bills would be revealed prior to Virginia's 2020 General Assembly. Other legislation has proposed magazine capacity limits, because that works out so well in California, for firearms, along with other features like suppressors, folding or telescoping stocks. What? Really? Pistol grips, thumb hole stocks, bayonet mounts, and rail mounts that can support a grenade launcher. Idiots. Okay, grenade launchers are already illegal for duh. Second of all, let's go back to here, telescoping stocks. So you're gonna remove a collapsible buttstock as if that does any good whatsoever. Have you ever said, man, I really wish that I just had a telescoping buttstock so that I could actually hit my target? No, of course you haven't, because that's nonsense. It's ridiculous. Okay, so there's your context. All right, so here's where things are starting to get spicy. Okay, this is a news source. I guess it's a local Virginia news source called WHSV. And WHSV reports from Culpeper County in Virginia. A Virginia sheriff has vowed to deputize county residents if the new Democratic majority in the state legislature actually passes gun law measures. At a meeting last week, which the Culpeper County Board of Supervisors joined an ever-growing list of counties in Virginia by voting unanimously to declare themselves Second Amendment sanctuary. Oops. See how that works when you use that against Democrats? All of a sudden, it's going to get crazy, right? We're a sanctuary county. All right. Sheriff Scott Jenkins vowed to deputize scores of residents, if necessary, to push back on potential state-imposed gun restrictions. Every sheriff and Commonwealth attorney in Virginia will see the consequences if our General Assembly passes further unnecessary gun restrictions. Red flag laws without due process will create enormous conflict as well, Sheriff Scott Jenkins wrote in a Facebook post. My office will always encourage and support our citizens' firearms training, concealed carry permits, and the ability to defend themselves and their families, he continued. I remain very optimistic that our General Assembly will not pass the proposed bill. Obviously, if passed, there are many of us willing to challenge these laws through the courts. In addition, if necessary, I plan to properly screen and deputize thousands of our law-abiding citizens to protect their constitutional rights to own firearms. Okay, you can kind of see.
Police officer that's actually doing their job is serving and protecting.
Exactly.
Realizing that we can protect ourselves if we have the tools to do so.
Exactly right. So it's starting to get spicy. Well, the Democrats have responded, and this is interesting. All right. Source WashingtonExaminer.com. Democrats say, the Virginia Democrats, that is, they say the law is the law. The Virginia Democrats float prosecution and National Guard deployment if police do not enforce gun control. Oh, we're escalating the situation, are we? Really? That's interesting. Okay, first of all, before I even read too much into this story, am I the only person that's thinking here like, oh, you're going to deploy the National Guard? Ooh, there's a threat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you've done business with the National Guard, I'm sure at some point in your tenure in the military. Mm-hmm. I served a year with the National Guard. It was a joke. It was embarrassing. Death by PowerPoint every single weekend. There's people that were showing up that were not fit to serve. Now, granted, that's not the overwhelming majority of them. Some of them are prior service and still trying to do their thing and whatnot.
I don't think they can do that because I think in the Constitution, if I remember correctly, you can't have military action against sovereign citizens in the United States.
Oh, well, I mean, if you want to go to the Constitution, you also have to consider that you can't take guns away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's amendment numero dos.
Yeah. I was reading, while you were reading that, I was actually going over, this is a source from the NRA, and they have what they call summary tables for every state. So, before entering, if you're breaking the law, or so you can abide by the law if you're traveling, cross state to go hunting or whatever. Right. And it says of a magazine holding more than 20 rounds in the state of Virginia, that will classify your weapon as an assault weapon. So it changes the classification if you have a magazine greater than 20 rounds.
Well, apparently we have trouble with words because every weapon is an assault weapon. That's stupid. Like, oh no, this pistol that I have in my gun safe, right? It only holds 8 rounds, so it's not an assault pistol. It's just a pistol. Are you stupid? The whole purpose for a pistol in general, first of all, is defense. It lowers the possibility of escalation. You take the situation and you de-escalate it. And that's the purpose of the pistol. It's the great equalizer. If somebody comes at you with a baseball bat, they're threatening your life. You have every right to say, I have this pistol, pull it out, brandish it. You even have every right to put the front sight aperture on target and with the intent to stop or de-escalate. Now, granted, if somebody swings a bat at me, yeah, I'm probably going to shoot him. I probably will. I'm not gonna be that guy that's like, oh, I gotta go for a headshot. Oh no. I'm aiming for the hip, buddy. You'll never walk the same again. But that's different because I'm still trying to protect myself, protect my family, and at the same time, not kill the guy. It's never my intent to actually take a life, and that's nobody's intent to take a life, except for people who have a low moral standard of ethics. Somebody who's like, obviously, if you have no problem with murdering somebody for no reason, then you probably shouldn't have a pistol. Yeah, I would agree with that. But
or be part of the rest of society.
Yeah, or be part of the rest of society. I still have no problem with the death penalty, if I'm being perfectly honest. But so
Yeah, I can see why though, after hearing what you were saying about Virginia and the uprising, because I'm reading their summary. They're just as much as free as we are in the state of Texas, besides the magazine issue. But other than that, it's just, they have pretty much a shall issue state. They issue out permits. It's not very hard, like in California, New York. The NFA items, you can pretty much have every single NFA item. Now, if that bill passes, then SBRs, suppressors, and all that will be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll no longer be an NFA friendly state. Yeah, everything is pretty much is just as much as close to our laws. And so I kind of see why the sheriffs and everyone is just uprising, because that is going to the far extreme. And I think the main is not there should be no reason why to infringe on on people's rights, especially law-abiding citizens that do it correctly. So I kind of understand, if I was in that state and if I was a sheriff, I would put my career on the line too.
Yeah, it's not because it's really not so much about the career, but you said that you would when you sign up as a police officer, you swear to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Is that right? So he's upholding his oath. Whether a lawmaker decides that they're just going to change the law or not is irrelevant, because they're sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. It's not well, they changed the law, so I guess my oath isn't the same. No, it doesn't work that way. And that's the thing, is like I'm sure that most sheriffs, most deputies, most county officers, police officers, whatnot, they understand the implications behind this. When you have a population, let's just break this down real quick, because I know we got to move on to all the other stuff. You have a population, right? You have an armed populace. Most people who carry guns are actually law-abiding citizens. It's a good majority of them. You can read all the statistics that you want. Go to the FBI, read it up. More people die by, hammers and fists, blah, blah, blah. But when you have this population and they're armed, and you take away their right to be armed, then they become defenseless. And if they become defenseless, they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to respond and say, no, you're not taking my constitutional rights away from me. You do not have that authority. Or they're going to move and they're going to leave the state. Now, what happens when you leave a state that has become so anti-gun and, pro-Democrat, and, when you implement all these liberal policies, what typically happens to the state?
It goes into poverty, or they start going into debt because they can't collect on taxes and so on and so forth.
That's right.
Yep.
Taxes always affected because of the massive outflow of people. People start leaving. So what do the Democrats do? Well, they say, well, we need more taxes. So they raise taxes. Well, then there's no benefit to working. So less people stop working, or if they don't migrate and they remain in the state, then they stop working, or the economic growth begins to slow, taxation goes up. And the higher you drive taxation, if you look at the Laffer curve, I've cited this one before, if you look at the Laffer curve, as taxation goes up, it actually has a detriment to the income of the government, state government, as it is. Federal government, they're going to get theirs because somebody's going to move somewhere else, and they're still going to work. But all of the good law-abiding citizens, all of the people who support, freedom and support being able to carry a firearm, and, all this real common sense gun legislation, not this crap that these guys are pushing, all the people that support all of that, the sane side of it, they leave. And all you have left is a bunch of criminals.
Yep. And you're right. I just read their oath, and the first sentence is, I solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all my duties upon me as, according to the best of my ability. So help me God. This is where he'll put his name in, but yeah.
So this sheriff is actually correct in everything that he's doing and saying, well, I'll just deputize people. He's actually doing what is correct according to the Constitution of the United States and what's best for the people of Virginia. Now, granted, Sheriffs are elected just like politicians are elected. Sheriffs also, and it may be slightly different in this area, but a sheriff is you vote for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the Virginia law that this guy may not be, but he's appointed at some point or somehow, some way. So he's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. And so, but the response from Democrats, actually, let me read this real quick and then we're going to move on. The Washington Examiner says Democratic lawmakers on Capitol Hill say local police do not enforce gun control measures likely to pass in Virginia should face prosecution and even threats of the National Guard. After November's Virginia legislature elections that led to Democrats taking control of both chambers, the gun control legislation proposed by some Democrats moved forward, including universal background checks, the assault weapons ban, and red flag laws. Legal firearm owners in the state, however, joined with their sheriffs to form the Second Amendment sanctuary counties, which declare the authorities in these municipalities uphold the Second Amendment in the face of any gun control measure passed by Richmond. Over 75 counties in Virginia have so far adopted such Second Amendment sanctuary revolutions in the Commonwealth. The latest being Spotsylvania County. The Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to approve the resolution declaring that the county police will not enforce state-level gun laws that violate the Second Amendment rights. So, where does this escalate to this beyond this point? So if I'm a National Guardsman and they're talking about calling me in to enforce BS gun laws like this, okay, so the National Guard is funded by the state, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the federal government has got the Army Reserves. It's got the active duty Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, right? So are we talking like a scenario where we're going to talk about state-funded military versus the feds? Or are we going to take this? Because listen, all day long, I don't care what you think. If it comes to this, if I'm in the National Guard and I'm looking at this whole thing and I'm going, I have to deploy to stateside. It's not even a deployment, but I have to
like
deploy
Richmond, Virginia or something.
Yeah, I got to deploy to Richmond and start unarming a bunch of people. No, that goes against my oath. Sorry, I quit. What are you going to do? Fire me? You going to throw me in jail? Nope, not going to do it. And that's, I think, what we're looking at right now is the leadership within the National Guard. And this is where I'm going to call on all these commissioned officers because, listen, you're being given a very, very unlawful order at this point. And if you execute those orders, don't be surprised if people execute back.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
You're right.
All right, Virginia, time to rise up.
Yep.
And that's not a call to action. I didn't do that. All right, Jacob, take her away. We're going to move forward.
All right. So let's talk about on the brighter things of life. Happiness. I'm not going to put anyone's name out there, but I've been reading a lot of Facebook posts of someone that's very close to me being a negative, and it, it's always back and forth with him. And I'm like, golly, I wish, I'm getting to the point that I want to say something. So I'm going to use this as my vessel. And, I wanted to write 10 tips on how to make yourself happy and sustain that happiness. Because I know we all been down in the dumps, but it's up to us as adults and people who want to live the good life to find it your own way to find happiness. Don't rely on others. So let's get started. So the first step that I wanted to cover, it's like 10 things that I said it can bring happiness and sustain it as well. And the first thing is that, and you could probably agree, Jeremy, that only you can make yourself happy. That's the number one.
Yeah. Actually, I think Will Smith quoted something very similar here not too terribly long ago that goes along the lines with that, where he was talking about it's not up to your spouse to make you happy. It's up to you to make you happy, and it's up to your spouse to make your spouse happy. And then you guys come together and you can be happy together. But if you depend on your spouse for your source of happiness, like I'm sure he was much more pleasant about it, but I'm just going to say it like this. If you depend on your spouse to be your source of happiness, you're a fool. You're an idiot.
That, and you're putting added pressure to your loved one, and added pressure that they don't need in life, and that will hinge on their happiness as well.
Yeah, make my life better.
Yeah.
What's the matter with you? Why don't you make my life better?
Yeah, so that's my first step. My first tip is only you can make yourself happy. You really can't rely on anyone else to make you happy. If you aren't happy with yourself, you won't think or you won't think you deserve affection or attention. You do not give anyone else the power to make you feel anything. Do not make anyone don't make anyone in your world to be your anchor. Don't rely, I don't rely on Jeremy to make me happy, because that's not his responsibility. It's my responsibility. So that it all comes down to taking ownership when it comes to that first step of making yourself happy.
And just so we're clear, I'm not Jacob's spouse.
All right. And the second thing, this one my wife brought in, and it's the little things can bring joy. Always being grateful for the small things, getting excited about the everyday things of life. You can find, something to be happy about every day. Getting coffee with a friend, your favorite song is playing on the radio, like our theme song, our new one. Eating a piece of chocolates, spending time with family, or just getting a compliment, just those little things that you can probably cherish and just, always just put in your heart pocket and just store it for another day.
That kind of sounds an awful lot like the gratitude ideology that we espoused not too terribly long ago on another podcast, where, in fact, I actually saw something that goes right along the lines with that too, just the other day, that said, how many people are actually happy for things that they don't have? How many people are grateful for things that they don't have? And I'm like, wait, that sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
But what happens when you wake up one day and you realize, like, you know what? I don't have cancer.
Yep.
I don't have an eating disorder. I don't have a weight problem. You can find a lot of joy in actually accepting the fact that, you're doing really good in life. You can find things that make you happy. When's the last time that you said, you know what? I'm grateful for this paycheck. The little things.
Yeah, you're right. And now let's end it with that for 2. Number 3, expectations ruin happiness. William Shakespeare said expectation is the root of all heartache. I thought by 30 I would be, a lot of people will say, like, if you're a 30-year-old, you're single or divorced, you're putting on this expectations, because when you're a kid, you're, growing up, and you're always with the media, not the media. Oh, that too. The media, the movies, the TV shows, they're always adding expectations to you subconsciously. I got to be married by I'm 25. I got to have a career, and this and that. And so when people reach their 30s, their mid 30s, that's when depression hits in. And because they had that, that subconscious expectations of, oh, I don't have my life together. And so just one thing I wanted to add is expectations ruin happiness. Try to look at things with a mind and don't expect a whole lot of things. So that's it for number 3. All right. So number 4 is something that we've talked about numerous times in our podcast, is appreciate what you have. There's moments that you're surrounded by family, friends that feel so blessed, so grateful. There are moments where even I realized that everything just happens for a reason. I even said that this morning. We saw a car accident right at the intersection where we turned to get, to take Elon to school. And Alex and I were having a hard time getting out of bed. And we had to push ourselves, like, let's go take Elon to school early. And I told, and when we're coming back and we saw it, I was like, oh my God, that could have been us. And then from there, we both had a little, that little blessedness of happiness, like, man, everything happens for a reason. That was the exact words that came out of my mouth.
You kind of felt a little bit of a rush.
Yeah. So appreciate what you have. And it made me appreciate it. Like, oh man,
yeah,
you start thinking about all the other things that happen.
A great example of that actually is the guy, I always go back to like Facebook memes that I've seen in the last couple of weeks. There's one of them that just stood out in my mind when you talk about being grateful for all the things you have, right? So there's this guy, he's got a car, right? And he hates his car. Absolutely just like, oh, I freaking hate this car. And then there's a guy who's on a bike and he's riding by and he goes, man, I wish I could have a car. And then there's a guy who's walking and sees the guy who's on the bike, and the guy who's walking says, man, I wish I could have a bike. And then, of course, the guy who's walking, there's a guy who's in a wheelchair who's wheeling by, and he goes, man, I wish I could walk. And so it's all about the perspective. Yep. Everybody has something that somebody else envies, and they forget to show that gratitude and that appreciation for what they do have rather than what they don't have. Like you and I, for example, we could sit here and like compare salaries, right? On a month, like how are you doing on a per annum basis there, Jacob, with your monies, and where are you investing, and blah, like, and we could compare like down to it, like where are you investing your money? What are you putting your money into? Because that would be a good thing for us to sharpen each other. But if I said, well, Jacob, I think you make $1,000 more than I do every month, that's not fair.
No, yeah, I was gonna bring that up right now because I was like, I wouldn't have that attitude. I'd be like, oh man, Jeremy made $1,000 than me this year. What did you do? And I'll be there with a pen and pencil ready to go.
Yeah, so let's talk turkey. How'd you get it done?
And that goes back into the mindset. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it goes all back to that, and then that even goes into number 5, the maintenance that it takes to keep happy. Not everything just happens on its own. You got to work at it still.
Yep.
You got to keep that mindset. Like you said just right now, we'll like say you catch me on a day that, PTSD does play a role into this. So there's times that you just feel down. But if you came up to me like that, I still have that mindset. Like, oh man, you made $1,500 more than me. What did you do? I'll be there with my notepad up on my computer, typing away.
Yeah. What's your secret, man? Did you put money into the market? How did you do it?
Yeah, exactly.
What, right. Was it timing the market? Did you, because a lot of people forget all this stuff takes effort. It takes maintenance. I don't wake up every day being the happy-go-lucky, sunny, chipper guy that I am. Ha, ha, ha. Right? This takes work. Okay. And every morning I've got a stack of books right out there. I've got a little reading area. You've seen it. And every morning I grab something and I read something of consequence, something with real true depth, something with meaning, just reminding me how to be a better person a little bit every day, how to speak to people every day, or how to speak in general, and like in a public setting, or like a podcast, because I want to be a better podcaster. I want to be a better speaker. And so I read that kind of stuff and I absorb it. And if I miss something, I stop. And this is key here, because if I feel like, oh man, I just read that page, and this happens to me all the time since I've got TBI, I'll read a page and I'll be like, wait, what did I just read? And I kind of forget. And so I'll have to go back and read it again, sometimes 2 or 3 times before I really understand what was on that single page. But the idea remains the same. I'm still absorbing the information, and I'm not letting anything stand in my way of getting that.
Like TBI, you're not getting upset.
That's right. In fact, the best treatment that I've found so far for TBI is doing the very things like the enriching processes and reading, hitting the gym regularly, religiously.
So repetitiveness, keeping it as a habit.
Yeah,
a good healthy habit.
Create good healthy habits, and I don't even really drink anymore. Like I've all but given up alcohol, with the rare exception of wine. It's life changing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that still, again, Jeremy, I don't know if you're reading my mind or not. That goes into number 6. You're not missing out on anything. People always say that I'll be happy when I do this, or I'll be happy when I go on vacation, or when I get married, or when I lose 10 pounds, happiness, or when I don't have TBI, that's when I'll be happy. No. So yeah. So that number 6, that you got to get rid of that attitude of you're not missing anything, and again, you hit it right on good, healthy habits, just because I read something and all of a sudden my TBI kept me from retaining it, it's not going to stop me from like, I got to learn this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And putting all these good kind of things into practice, right? So like the comparison thing, again, I'm going to backtrack just a tad on the comparison thing. I have a buddy here who he's taking his 4-month-old and his wife to Orlando, and he's kind of debating, like, do I go to Disney World or do I check out some of the other stuff? Now,
like
I could,
Epcot and all those other ones,
yeah,
Universal Studios,
and I could look at that and I could assess it in any way that I want to. I could be like, dude, I wish I could just drop everything and take my kids to Disney World in December. That's pretty awesome. But then there's a reality of it where I'm looking at it from a selfish standpoint, and then there's the other side of it where my initial reaction was actually a very positive reaction. I was happy for him to be able to do that, right? So you've got these two comparatives where a scenario says, A, one person is going to do X, Y, Z. Am I jealous or am I happy for them? And I found myself being happy for him rather than jealous of him. And that was huge, because it was like a mark. It was like a moment in life where I was like, okay.
Yeah, that pitch of the fork, you're just like, which route should I take?
Yeah, well,
on the road, yeah.
But I didn't even think about it. I was just automatically happy for him and didn't myself want to actually go to Orlando. And that was a monumental thing for me in my life, because it signified to me, like, okay, I'm doing some things right here. I'm becoming the person I want to be.
Yeah, that goes hand in hand to number 7, Jeremy. You are in control of your own happiness and your own thoughts. And there it goes. It takes you, you're the only one. You can't blame anyone else that when it comes to selecting your own thoughts and when it comes to replying on something, or even when it comes to like reading something that you disagree with, and it could make you angry, or you can control your thoughts and be like, learn from it.
That's a Socratic method.
So you got to push away that negative energy or that negative thought. It's on you to choose to be happy than to suffer.
Yeah, because if you're suffering because of something that somebody else did, that's a choice. You've made a choice to waller in that, to live in that. That same friend that's going to Orlando. This is kind of on topic here, so I'm going to just go ahead and railroad this in real quick. That same friend who's going to Orlando, he and I were having a conversation one day in the gym, and we were talking about some of the protests and some of the stuff like that. Like some really like some of the stupid stuff that takes place in the younger generations. And I said something that I shouldn't have said, and that was, your generation sucks, because he's a little bit younger than me. But then I had to stop, and I really and we bantered back and forth about it a little bit, because that's kind of what men do, take an opposition. And so we bantered back and forth a little bit about it and blah, blah, blah. And after the fact, we were done working out. I went and hit the sauna, and I'm chilling out, and I'm just kind of thinking about the whole conversation. I thought, man, what if I was wrong? And it hit me all of a sudden, like, dude, I said something very negative about his entire generation, which is also partially my generation. And it's not correct, because the whole generation doesn't suck. Some people within the generation suck. And so the next time I saw him, I went over and I said, you know what? I said something yesterday and it wasn't correct. I said that your generation sucks, and that's not true. And so I have to apologize to you. He's like, oh man, you don't have to apologize to me. I'm like, well, actually, yes, I do, because this is something that came out of my mouth. It was a very negative thing to say, and it wasn't 100% accurate. It wasn't 100% true.
Yeah, it was a fallacy, because it was your opinion. It
was an opinion, and it was a false opinion. And so I have to apologize. And he goes like, oh, man, it's not. It's fun. We were just having fun bantering back and forth. And I said, yeah, that's true. But if I don't own this and get it off of my own personal conscience and say, no, it's not true that everybody in that generation sucks, then I absolve myself from accepting a negative mindset, and that's not okay. So I'm apologizing for me, not for you. And
well, this goes into number 8, Jeremy. Again, I don't know what. Can you see what I'm seeing here?
No.
Your past does not define you. You can learn from your past experience, but your mistakes do not define you. Like your friend, he was like, no, I got it. He understood. So, we all make mistakes. We all make bad decisions in the past. We're human.
Yeah.
We can take these lessons and learn from them, from all these bad decisions and all these, past experiences, and to create a new future that's stronger and happier. And it starts with anything. With that moment that you said, it dawned on you and be like, holy crap, what I said was not right, not correct.
Yeah.
So let me fix it.
Yeah. We all make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And one of the biggest keys to happiness is not dwelling on mistakes that are made in the past, right? Because we don't live in the past. We got to keep, everybody's always looking behind them. You don't understand. I've got a past. Dude, everybody's got a past. Everybody's done something they don't like. Everybody has made mistakes. Everybody. All right. Plain and simple. It's that easy. You and I come back from Iraq, right? And one of the first things that came to my mind is like, oh my God, how am I going to integrate back into civilian life? My past will never let me do that. Some of the things that I've done, I'll never be normal. Well, what is normal anyway?
No, yeah, there's really no.
There is no such thing.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's impossible, because normal would be kind of an ideology of absolute. And there's no such thing as an absolute. Science teaches us that, right? Not a science denier. Hello.
Yeah. All right. So number 9, people like to be around happy people. People like to be surrounded by happiness, laughter. It's contagious.
That's true.
And it doesn't attract everyone. It attracts the people that are almost on the same mindset as you.
That's true. It's all true. It's 100% true. Anecdote. Here we go. Prepare yourself. I got another one. Every time you give me something, I'm going to come up with an anecdote from this point forward. That's just what I'm going to do. Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, I have to give you credit for something as well, because when we first started this whole podcast endeavor, one of the things that I noticed was just like, you go up and talk to anybody. It didn't matter. You just start talking to people. I'm like, yeah, this guy's crazy. Yeah. I don't know how he just starts talking to people left and right. Like, how does he do this crap? And then, of course, in my growth track, my progress has kind of led me to picking up more books and reading more, content rich books. Some of the things like you suggested, some other things that I've picked up by, In the Search of Money, I actually found attitude changes and all these other things. So one of the things, though, that I think you taught me, or you mentioned to me, was Dale Carnegie. And so I started reading some Dale Carnegie stuff, and all of a sudden it kind of makes a lot more sense. Like, it's no wonder I don't know how to talk to people. Or this was my thought process then. It's no wonder that I don't know how to talk to people, is because I don't understand people. And so as I read through some of Dale Carnegie's principles, I started understanding, like, it's okay to have an ego. There's nothing wrong with having an ego. In fact, everybody has one. And if it's damaged, you'll know. And if it's in good health, you'll know. So what's the easiest way to get into a conversation with somebody? Well, just ask them something about themselves. Their ego will allow them to start pouring out all sorts of facts and statements and anecdotes and experiences and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, like, I'm sitting here. This was in New England. All places, right? Not a fan of New England. I'm sitting here in New England and I'm having a conversation with a guy who is probably the furthest left that I've ever met in my life. He's a very, very liberal dude. And we're having a rational discussion about politics, where me, an independent who has very heavy conservative leanings, is talking to a liberal who probably has a lot of liberal leanings, I would assume, and we're getting along just fine. It's like the internet was lying to me this whole time and telling me that we can't coexist, we can't talk to each other,
you can't get along. Yep.
Yeah. And so my people skills have grown exponentially since then. And so now I'm just sitting, like, I see people in the gym, I'm like, hey dude, how's your day? How you doing? How's it going? What'd you work today? Did you get it? That kind of thing. And I'm making friends in places that I never expected that I would. And it's all just because I practice some basic principles, basic wrenching principles.
Well, here's number 10. I was kind of iffy of putting this in or leaving it out, but here's one. You feel happy when you help others.
I think that depends on the motivation.
Volunteering or even just helping out a friend can reduce stress and improve your mood. Sorry.
Go clear your throat.
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, all right. Yeah, no, you're right though, because the greatest thing that you can ever do for yourself is to do for somebody else. That's the generosity principle, right? Somebody's struggling, somebody needs help, somebody needs wisdom, somebody needs guidance, and they actually actively seek it out. You can help them.
Yeah,
maybe
I
there's
think it
something
helps others build that self-confidence and give you a sense of worth and be included, feel included. There you go.
Yeah. Now on the flip side, I'm not a huge fan of, say, panhandling. People who are hanging out on the side of the road, and there's one guy here in town that drives me absolutely crazy. But there's one guy here in town. He just sits there every single weekday and just panhandles. And the people have complained to the city. They've complained to the police department. The chief of police actually went down there and had a conversation with him, and then made a public statement. And he said, this guy straight up told me he's not homeless. He has a place. He lives over here on the south side. He just says it's easier to sit here on the side of the road and ask for money than it is to go get a job. And people give him money. And it blows my mind because there's real people that are actually in need. And this guy's kind of tugging on heartstrings. Okay, so I have an issue with that. I'll help you get a meal. I'll feed you. I'll talk to you. I'll help you find a job. But what I won't do is I won't just hand you money, because so many different things can be done with that money. And I don't have any way of making sure that you're actually behaving in an appropriate manner that's going to benefit you in the long run. So no, if you're standing on the side of the road and you want money from me, I'm sorry. I'm
in the same boat. I'm not going to give you fish when I can teach you how to fish.
Exactly. You owe nobody nothing. Nobody is owed anything. Like housing's a human right. You've heard that one before, right?
Oh, yeah.
Healthcare is a human right. No, it's not. You have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Nothing else. Everything that the Constitution guarantees you, you have the right not to be, infringed upon. You have the right not to have somebody attack you. You have the right not to have somebody steal from you. Those are all basic human rights. Healthcare is not a human right. Housing is not a human right. Nobody owes you anything. And the sooner that you get rid of that mentality that somebody does owe you something, then you'll find happiness.
Yep. Well, there's my 10 steps, Jeremy.
So be sure to join us this weekend as we go up to Washington, D.C., and we don our pussy hats and we start marching in the street to let Donald Trump know that we need abortion rights now. Because that's what makes people happy.
Yep. No.
Impeach 45. It'll make me happy.
Yep. That goes into you're not missing anything.
Give me health care. I need health care. Give me. Should be free. Give me a house. I need happiness, Jacob. Give me your stuff.
Don't make me happy because I don't have it.
Yeah. You know what would make me happy?
That $1,500 you made more of me than this year. I want that. That'll make me happy.
Well,
don't teach me how you got it. Just give it to me.
Nah, I'm sorry. You're just going to have to work for it. It's going to be a rough day.
I really hope, ladies and gentlemen, y'all did learn something out of this. We apologize for the last time ending it on a bad, but we kind of wanted to end this podcast at a brighter note, and we're going to try to work on that in the future. But yes, please don't. Happiness is something that you can generate on your own.
Yeah.
That's all this is going to teach you is there's ways to generate it on your own, and do not rely on anyone when it comes to happiness. Yes, it's good to have a compliment. Yes, it's good to be surrounded by people that are in the same path as you, but it all comes down to yourself.
Learn to appreciate the things that you have. I mean, look, we're in the holiday season, right? Christmas right around the corner. We just had Thanksgiving. Turkey made me happy for a little while, but, it didn't have any long-term effects on my happiness. You know what really makes me happy? In fact, here's one. I'm going to throw a bonus in. Number 11. Number 11 is a big one. Change your diet. Why do I mean? What does diet have to do with happiness? You just hate fat people. You fat shaming son of a bee sting. Yeah, right. That's the problem. I just hate people. Right. No, let's look at this, right? I'm going to give you, again, another objective antidote, and you take it for what it's worth. I've been eating very clean for the last, I don't know, it's been a while. Well, yesterday, when I picked up our friend Bill to go to the airport, he said, well, come on, let's go. I'll buy you breakfast since you're giving me a ride. All right, cool. That's who might have passed up a free breakfast? Well, the place that we went to didn't really have a whole lot of options for me to eat well. And so I'm just like, it's been a long time since
Was it Arby's?
No, it wasn't Arby's. I could have at least had a relatively healthy meal from Arby's, but no. It was a local mom and pop shop. Mm-hmm. And so we went in there. I'm looking at the menu and I'm going like, this is going to be tough. Like, I'm basically going to have to figure out how to, screw it. I'm going to have one day where I don't eat well. No big deal, right? Cheat day, like they call it. Mm-hmm. So I ordered pancakes and sausage patties. That was it. That was my breakfast, was pancakes and sausage. And, put the syrup on it and, just generally ate like a fat ass. And 30 minutes later, an hour later, somewhere in there, I started to feel it. I'm just like, ugh, I'm not feeling real good. Mm-hmm. And I know what it is. I know it's the food that I ate because I slept fine. The only thing that I did any different was the diet, the food that I ate for the day. And it wasn't nourishing. It's freaking pancakes. Like, there's nothing nourishing and wholesome and decent about pancakes. No, it just isn't.
Besides the sugar.
Yeah, you're just loading yourself up with a bunch of empty calories of sugar and carbs. Mm-hmm. And I got Bill to the airport. I dropped him off, and I'm just like, oh man, I gotta go home. I gotta take a nap, something. So that's what I did. I went home. I took a nap. I woke up about 11:45. Time to get ready to go to the gym. So I get up. My body's starting to react to the lack, like the sugar rush, when the sugar mm-hmm. rush, when you crash, my body's starting to react to that. I'm starting to get all shaky and I'm like, oh, I got to eat something again. Like, here I am again. I feel like I'm starving or something. And so I had to stop on the way to the gym and pick up something decent at a 7-Eleven. That's a challenge right there. And then, drank an energy drink because, like, what the heck? I'm already having a crappy day. Might as well have another crappy. Like, just finish the day out, eat crappy all day long. What the heck? Why not? And so all day long, I felt it. I felt like crap. I felt like garbage. All I could do in the gym was I just hit the treadmill. That's it. And I just burned calories and just sat there feeling sorry for myself. And I couldn't get out of my own way. My head was just foggy. And man, diet is so freaking important when it comes to happiness. Like, you really, really need a decent diet in order to have a clear head, a clear thought process.
Mm-hmm. You're right. That's all science there, and it does play a big role.
Yeah, it does. We're not eating the things that we used to eat a lot of greens and good God, Crisco wasn't a thing until the early 1900s. We never mm-hmm. deep fat fried anything in the past. It was grilled over a fire or it was eaten raw, right? Mm-hmm. So our bodies are used to that lower salt, lower fat. You're not lower sugars. We're not absorbing massive amounts of sugars. And man, if you're just going to do anything, if you do nothing else for yourself, do yourself a favor for one day. Just eat decent food and just tell me how you feel. Mm-hmm. Just one day. That'll make a difference. Oh, yeah. Jacob, there's one other thing. There's one other thing that'll make a difference. Besides a new theme song, mm-hmm. everybody likes a new theme song, but there's one other thing that will make a difference.
What's that?
Freaking push-ups. Just do them.
Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, be safe out there on Friday the 13th and enjoy your weekend.
And eat a salad.